afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You have tuned into the Rebel News live stream. It is Thursday, September 17th, 2020. And because it is a Thursday, myself, David Menzies, and my lovely co-host, Sheila, the She-Devil Gun Reed, we take over the live stream every Tuesday and Thursday. Ezra Levant is here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So how are you doing, Sheila? And please, before you get to what it is we're trying to accomplish here, how did the results of that superhero, supervillain personality test turn out? You folks might remember on Tuesday we were talking about there's a website called the superheroquiz.com and the superheroquiz.com/villain. It's a personality test. You put in the answers about, well, your childhood, your likes and your dislikes, and then it matches you to your most likely superhero or supervillain archetype. And Sheila, how did that go for you?
I entirely forgot in the last half an hour to send the screenshots I took of my test over to Justin so that he could show people. But I have a 70% match to Spider-Man. Which is okay, I guess. It says that I'm intelligent, witty, a bit geeky. Maybe those things are accurate, actually. And have great power and responsibility. You know what? Maybe that's right. Maybe I'm a little bit like Spider-Man. I do wear glasses. You know, I'm slightly geeky. I'm interested in strange things.
Yep.
I do believe in hard work and good choices. So maybe, is that right? Am I like Spider-Man?
And you've got a sense of humor. And of course, Spider-Man was noted for that. You know, it's funny. I think former President Barack Obama, he identified as Spider-Man too, because I think in the inauguration address, he used the line, "With great power comes great responsibility." And I'm looking around the room and going, he's quoting Stan Lee. That's a Spider-Man.
Yeah, I have 65% match, however, with Robin.
Oh, wow.
And I like to wear my underpants on the inside of my clothes, so I don't know if that's entirely accurate. And as far as, I guess, my supervillains, it says I'm Catwoman. Yeah. I have a 68% match with Catwoman and a 67% match with Venom. I have a troubled past. I don't have a troubled past. It was difficult, but not troubled. See, the questions I thought were like skewing towards like either think you lived like you basically had parents who like were awful. Yes. There was no like your parents loved you, but times were tough. Like there weren't any of those in there. So maybe it skewed the wrong way, but it says with a troubled past and an upbringing on the streets. I don't know. I don't live on pavement. So I don't even understand how that's the thing. You've learned how to fend for yourself through crime. No, I did. I did learn how to fend for myself probably a little sooner than most people should. But yeah, I guess I'm Catwoman. But I don't know. I would never squeeze myself into that outfit. I couldn't do it. I'm a modest individual. I don't even wear V-necks.
You know, going back to what you were saying about some of the questions are skewed, you know, the whole traumatic childhood thing. And I think they're taking that from comic book narratives, Sheila, because when you think of it, supervillain or superhero, they're typically born out of trauma. I mean, Batman and Joker are two sides of the same coin. I mean, Batman had his parents murdered when he was 8 years old. The Joker fell into a vat of acid. So there you have it. For me, by the way, folks, I've got mixed feelings of this because the movie was so lousy, but my most likely superhero was the Green Lantern, followed by the Flash and Superman. Ooh, just missed Superman by that much. And for villains, it was Kingpin, Venom. Look at that. We both had Venom as the second choice, and Lex Luthor. I like that. Lex Luthor, you know, he's super smart, rich. This will never be attainable unless I win the lottery and I guess go back to school. For
Lex
many
Luthor,
years.
Does he drive an electric car? Maybe that's why you got him.
Well,
anyway,
Lex Luthor has that electric battle suit, but I'll tell you, Sheila, if I had to pick a superhero that would be most suited to you, it would have to be the Huntress because A, she has a weapon, the crossbow, And originally, the way they drew the Huntress, and you've got it on right now, she wore a cross. I think they've downplayed the Christianity element of the Huntress, so the new costume doesn't have that anymore. And I thought, weaponization and wearing the cross, that is Sheila Gunn Reid. And she wears a really cool costume too, I might add. But anyways, folks, if you want to take that quiz, the superheroquiz.com and the superheroquiz.com/villain, give us a super chat, and we'll give you some publicity about what hero or villain you're most likely to become. And speaking of super chats, this is where Sheila explains what that is.
Yeah, the super chats are already rolling in, actually. This is... I'm not sure why. I have no idea why. But thank you, everybody at home. Yeah, this is the point at which I try to at least let everybody know what we're supposed to be doing when we never actually really achieve that. But this is the daily live stream. So during the pandemic, we went from 1 hour of live stream a week. It was just on Friday. It was just hosted by Ezra. Or if Ezra was busy, it was David and I. But during the pandemic, because there's more news than ever, we've moved it to 5 days a week at noon Toronto time, or 10 my time out here in Alberta. And it gives our viewers a chance to interact with each other in the live chat, which I think is great. David and I get to interact with each other and get off on tangents and talk about the things that interest him and the things that interest me. And maybe you'll get to know each other a little, or know us a little better as people, because we're completely unscripted here. But it also gives our viewers a chance to support the work that we do here at Rebel News completely willingly, unlike what they do to you at the CBC, through something called the Super Chat. You just click the little $ at the bottom, and you can throw some money in there. It'll pin to the top of the screen and be highlighted. Producer Justin will send it to me in a message so that I can read it out loud. But it's a good way for you to maybe direct the show. It's a little democracy in action. If there's something you want us to talk about, now's your chance. If you want to get us back on track, if you want to get us off track, if there's a topic that you'd like us to talk about, or even a story suggestion, put it in a super chat. We'll see it. And I do go back and read all the comments, and I do take note. So if there's something in a super chat you'd like us to talk about in a broader way, do it. Put it on our radar.
And speaking of producer Justin, Sheila, I asked him to weigh in on this quiz. He thought it was absolutely way too juvenile and a waste of time. He's taking it right now, but I answered the quiz thinking how Justin would answer the quiz. And for superhero, I came up with, what was it called? Bouncing Boy. So there you go. I know, pretty obscure. Basically, a big round kid that bounces. And anyways, way to go, Justin. That's probably impetus for you to actually answer the quiz and come up with your real personality. That'll stick with him all night, he says. Anyway,
poor Justin.
But I don't. Did you want to get to those early super chats or get to our first video clip, Sheila?
Let's breeze through these early super chats, then we'll get to our first video. Otherwise, we're going to end up with a big pile of super chats that'll take up the middle of the show.
Thank you.
Like normal. Liard Kintyre gives us $2 and says, "One man who stops lying can bring down tyranny." Is that one man Justin Trudeau? Is it? Because I don't know if you can stop. Proud Boys Calgary gives us $5. Hello, other Justin. Bit late, but the Proud Boys chapter commemorated 9/11 at Central Memorial Cenotaph. The corner entrances of the park now have a transmural flag. Yes. Justin sent me that picture. For some reason, there's a transmural flag painted on the corner entrances to the Cenotaph in Calgary.
You know what? I want to ask something about that. That's the blue and pink one, right?
Yeah.
Because we already have the rainbow flag. And I'm not really making a joke here, Sheila. I'm going to try to see if you can answer this question. I thought the rainbow flag, which I think is maybe 7 colors, it's LGBTQ plus, okay? So the T is trans, right? So doesn't that flag represent the trans community? What I'm saying is, here's a separate sub-flag for the trans community. So in theory, gay men should have their own flag, lesbians should have their own flag, Bisexuals should have their own flag. Why do the trans people get 2 flags? That's what I'm asking, because I thought the rainbow flag covered off that whole alphabet soup of categories.
David, you need to really Google your sexuality flags. Put that on the list of things for you to do this afternoon. There is a lesbian flag, and it's like orange or like burgundy through like purple.
Never seen it, even in the gay village in Toronto. Never seen that one.
Yeah, there's a lot of flags for the different sexualities, including asexual, non-binary. There you go, pansexual.
Holy mackerel!
It's a thing. It's a thing, and I don't know why you need a flag.
Look at that. It's like a little United Nations.
I don't understand. Like, be whatever you want. Just live your life. Live your life. Do whatever you want. Live your life. Let's leave everybody alone. Discriminate against no one. Leave everybody alone. But I don't understand what the deal is with the flag.
And like, I don't understand I don't know what the situation is with at the Calgary Cenotaph, but I can tell you in Aurora, which is a city or town, I should say, just north of Toronto, they spent something like $12,000 in taxpayer dollars. I don't know how you come to such an obscene amount of money for a paint job. And instead of a solid white crossing at a traffic light, they painted the rainbow flag and the trans flag, I believe. And somebody did a burnout on it, evidently, and that's being treated as a hate crime.
I know. I know. You did a burnout on the road. Where else are you going to do a burnout?
I know.
You know,
the guy probably didn't even know it was a rainbow flag under his car at the time, but
it's toxic masculinity causing those burnouts.
And a big carbon footprint. 2 knocks.
Mayor, hi. Sorry, go ahead. Mike Mayer gives us $5. Hi, Mike. That's Mike from People vs. Predators. People vs. Predators march this Saturday in Spruce Grove, Alberta, helping to protect our communities. Thanks, Rebels. Mike, what time is that? Can you just maybe even text message it to me? I think it's at 11:30, isn't not? I just want to make sure that everybody has the right details. Let's keep going. Jack Krauser. $6.99. What do you think of Michael Caputo? So Michael Caputo is the Trump health appointee who apparently he's on a leave of absence now for saying something that was completely true. I guess that's what happens when you say things that are true that Democrats don't like. But he basically said the Democrats don't want a coronavirus vaccine before the election, which is absolutely true. They don't. They don't want the vaccine to be a vaccine that Trump had anything to do with. And so he's definitely right to say that. And but anyways, he basically accused them of sedition, which is also kind of true. But now he's on a leave of absence, I guess, to, quote, focus on his health and the well-being of his family.
Oh, listen, Sheila, both the Democrats and the media the way they're covering the pandemic is through an electoral lens. Sorry, I stumbled over that. And it doesn't fit the narrative for a vaccine to come before November 3rd, because the idea is to get the Dems in, and they like, a white knight to the rescue. We've got the vaccine. We're here to rescue the United States of America. Yeah, so I absolutely believe this is politically motivated and, like you said, just for speaking the truth.
Yeah. Let's keep going. MVP gives us $8 and says this is to support Avi's lawsuit. Thank you very much. We'll get to that right away.
Yep.
Flat Earther gives us $6.99. Research and read the Canadian Quarantine Act of 2005. Read gives the UN World Health Organization full control over 196 countries that signed and sold us out. I don't even think we need the Quarantine Act to do that, since Dr. Theresa Tam also works for the World Health Organization, which is an arm of the UN, and she's basically in control of pandemic response. So we don't even need the Quarantine Act to turn over our pandemic response to the misinformation given to us by the World Health Organization.
And don't criticize her, Sheila, because that would make you racist.
Also sexist. I'm also sexist, just so you know.
Wait, does it work that way? If a woman criticizes another woman, it's sexism?
That's what they tell me when I say climate Barbie, that I'm being sexist. So, I mean, it's the same thing. J-Man gives us $13.99. I don't see a super chat, but thank you very much. John V. Hickey gives us $5. He said he got Superman and Dr. Doom.
Oh,
interesting.
That is a double. That is absolutely amazing. Even when I lie on the test, I never get Superman. Like trying to gin it to make the test come out with the right result, which is the wrong result. So you must be such a virtuous, strong man, my friend. And Dr. Doom, that's a grade A villain from the Marvel universe in my estimation. The number one nemesis of the Fantastic Four. So good on you.
And the final super chat to catch up on is Matt B300 gives us $5, and Matt is a David Menzies fan. He's got a job interview in Toronto tomorrow, and he hopes to meet you, Mr. Menzies, if you're out and about. I'll be wearing my Rebel News sweater. So, David, if you see a guy in a Rebel News sweater, it's probably Matt.
Here's some advice, Matt. In the job interview, don't mention my name. Okay.
Depends on who you're interviewing with.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Let's play it safe. But if you find out the interviewer is a Rebel fan, then mention you're a fan too. So, but that's very kind of you. Thank you so much.
Oh, we've got one last super chat before we get to, I guess it's Avi first, or two. Jay Barrett gives us $35. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Please fix your country so I can make my 9th trip to Banff. Americans love most Canadians. I think that you're visiting the right province if you want some Canadians who love Americans back. I would love to fix my country, if only for you to just come visit, but mostly for us too. And Adam Clark gives us $6.99. I love J.K. Rowling. I have a little video about her. Yeah. I don't know if it's up yet, but it was the intersection of my true crime obsession and the culture war. And it was interesting for me to step outside the intersection of wrestling and the culture war for once to apply the other thing, just rattling around in my brain that's not politics. Kane Enmark gives us $5. Why is gay pride anymore? What rights do they not have? Is it just to pander with TD Bank and Woke Jet? I don't know. I don't know why we're celebrating sexuality. I just be that. Just be it. Just go and be it. That's fine.
And you know what, Sheila?
I don't know what the celebration's about.
You're 100% right. I know gay individuals. They live in suburbia. They just want to get on with their lives. They have nothing to do with that nonsense. You know, they think, you know, maybe once upon a time when there was legitimate discrimination.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, as the joke goes, you know, that's the love that dare not speak its name. Now it's the love you can't get to shut up sometimes, right? But the fact is that equality has been achieved, and they just want to get on with their lives. And what's wrong with that, right? So, and now that they're subdividing all the, you know, and what are we up to in terms of genders right now, or sexual orientations? Is it like 112?
The alphabet, the whole alphabet, something.
Yeah. And we better not talk about that, because that's what got Stephen LeDrew fired from his gig at Bell Media when he went on Tucker's show a couple of years ago and tried to make the case that we have great freedom of speech in Canada. And he got
fired.
He got fired for echoing all the correct talking points, no less. It's so there you go.
I'm not against people learning things the hard way, though. I'm really not. Like, I think sometimes that's the best way for liberals to learn things, is absolutely the hard way. Flat Earther gives us $2.79, IHR 2005, and the Quarantine Act of 2005 read. Troy S. gives us $10. David, any update on Mayor Brown? Sheila, if you could have dinner with 3 wrestlers, past and present, who would they be and why?
Wow.
David, you go first. I'm going to give that some thought.
Okay. For Mayor Brown, what a incredibly timed chat. I am going after the show up to Brampton today to the Brampton court to basically formally file notice that we are challenging that $65 trespass ticket. As you know, Sheila, Ezra said at the time, if it costs $65,000 to fight this, we will, because it's not about the money. It's not about a mark on my record. It is about standing up for freedom of speech in the public square. It's about standing up for this little weasel, this failed politician, this beer league hockey player, this skirt chaser, using the police force as his own Praetorian guard to shoo away journalists in the public square. No chance. We don't bend the knee for that crap. And I'm going to formally file the notice that our lawyer has written up that we are going to court all this way. And we'll go to, I shouldn't say court singular, because if we lose at the first level, Sheila, Ezra's happy to go all the way to the Supreme Court, if of course they would hear it. That's how important this is. So that I'm going to be at the Brampton Courthouse sometime this afternoon to do a little video of formally serving a notice. And Sheila, your question was about the wrestlers for dinner?
Yes. Okay. I'm going to list two and I'm going to give you my third.
Okay.
Okay, so obviously the first one, it's not even going to be Macho Man. The first one that I would choose is Bret Hart. I'm Albertan, so that should be obvious. So much of wrestling history and wrestling as we know it today, but also wrestling as we know it before, lives in that man. The Hart family really created sports entertainment as we know it, that Vince McMahon sort of took and turned into the WWF and the WWE, but it started in Calgary.
Stampede Wrestling, right?
With Stampede Wrestling. Yeah. So the way that you would take athletes from other genres and create wrestlers and create these wrestling personas, that started with Stampede. And then he was in the WWF in that golden era. And then, sort of saw that, and he was there through the changes. So through to WWE and then through like when it went from the more like fun, outlandish things to, having to compete with, other larger networks that were up and coming like NWO. And so I think Bret Hart, just for like the history of it all, it's living within him, and the politics of it all too. That sort of interpersonal politics. I would also suggest Ted DiBiase.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Great guy.
Great guy, great wrestler. But I also loved how his wrestling persona, the $1 Million Man, this like rich jerk, was very incompatible with who he was in the real world.
100%.
Ted DiBiase, devout Christian, correct, minister, humanitarian. And so for someone who was able to maintain that those personal ethics while putting on this performance, I think what a great guy to talk to. And I will list a third just because, of course, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, because of the role he played in the Cold War. But I'll give you my third, David. Go ahead.
Oh, all right. For a third, well, I'll tell you what, I'll list my three. And those were all please. Inspired. Yeah. There's so many. It's like choosing amongst your children who you're going to save. But of course, it has to be Hulk Hogan, because back in the 80s, he's the one that put wrestling into a different stratosphere, which it still occupies. And he was
he destroyed fake news. Like, he took down Gawker. And so he was like the first guy who was like, we're going to ruin this really bad media enterprise. So sorry to interrupt, but also Hulk Hogan for that.
You know what? I forgot about that story. You're absolutely right. It has to be Jesse the Body Ventura. I mean, he went from wrestler to governor, right?
Yes, and then crazy guy.
All his theories. I mean, because I'm trying to think of the dinner time conversation. Yes. As much as I love Stone Cold Steve Austin, I mean, how intriguing is that going to be over the course of a several-hour dinner? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll be absolutely fantastic. And then finally, it's got to be Mankind, Mick Foley, simply because I read his book, which is
Yes.
the best titled wrestling book of all time. Have a nice day. You're seeing this mangled face with the smiley face logo next to it. Mick Foley's adventures of the pain and suffering and hardship, both the abuse to his body, the abuse to his bank account. This is in the early beginning when he was just starting out before he found fame and fortune. It is an amazing story, and he has got an incredible sense of humor. So just for that, it's got to be Mankind. And hopefully he would wear his Mankind persona to the dinner table as opposed to Cactus Jack or what was the other one he had?
Mankind.
Dude Love.
Dude
Thank
Love.
you, Mr. President.
Dude Love. Thank you. Mick Foley too. Like just the series of characters that he had, sometimes simultaneously.
Yeah.
And it was, and the viewer knew, and he didn't care, and the viewer didn't care, and how he was not like the stereotypical wrestler build. Like, sure, he spent time in the gym, but like, I bet he ate a lot of KFC. Like, he just looked like also a regular big guy, and I thought that was great about Mick, that he sort of inspired people that anybody could be a wrestler if you put the time in.
And can I just say something about that, Sheila? Because this is why for years now I haven't tuned into wrestling. That was the thing. Once upon a time, you didn't have to look like a G.I. Joe action figure or a Ken doll, right? You didn't need the six-pack. You didn't need the triceps on top of the bicep.
You could be Bam Bam Bigelow.
Exactly. And now Vince McMahon, for some reason, has it in his head that there has to be this stereotypical body type for the male wrestlers. And I think if Mankind were up and coming today, he would never get into the WWE, Sheila. Yeah. And it's too bad because here's the thing. You can look like a chiseled Adonis. That's fine. But you got to be able to work the mic. That's what's great about wrestling. It's not just what's happening in the ring. It's the drama outside the ring. And some of these new guys, to steal a line from Bobby the Brain Heenan, they can't spell cat if you spotted them the C and the T, right?
Yeah, you got to cut a promo. You got to be able to do a fun, exciting promo.
Yeah. Like the promo I cut a couple of years ago for Rebel.
Yes. We're half an hour into the show, and we've talked about wrestling. Okay, so
and comics.
And comics. So this is, I don't know if this is what you people tuned in for, but here you are. Should we cut to Avi, please?
Absolutely. I imagine the boss is fuming right now. So
I know. I'm trying to get back on track.
It was quite peaceful until...
They've got it!
Like here, he's not here for any purpose of reason.
Honey, they've got
He's
it!
under arrest. But this guy here is going to be placed under arrest right now.
Well, I'm under arrest. I am media. I'm media. I've got my permit in my pocket. My permit is in my pocket. I'm fine. I've got my permit in my pocket. I work for Rebel News. I am lawfully here. G'day guys, I'm here today at the Supreme Court, which is the highest court in the state of Victoria, to launch our fight back against what has become the out-of-control police state. The world has witnessed what's happening here, from unlawful arrests to police brutality, and of course, as you remember last week, the moment I was violently tackled to the ground, arrested, held against my will, and sent packing. Why? For doing my job, the crime of journalism. But today, we are taking it one step further, and I need your help to do it at standwithavi.com, because it's already cost $11,000 just to bring it here. We've got Madeleine Smith, and for those of you who have been following me for a while will know that she has won every single politically motivated case that the police have brought against me so far. Now she's helping me take the fight to them, and she's brought on Peter Hamilton, who specialises in this specific area of law. Once we're in this court, we're likely going to need some heavy hitters to join our legal team, so you can imagine how this will easily cost over $50,000, which sounds like a lot, I know, but defending our freedom is priceless, especially when you're up against the state in here. So in summary, if you give me the tools to fight them at standwithavi.com, we will finish the job, but I cannot do it alone. Today, my legal team officially filed the court proceedings in this court against the state, and we're going after them for the unlawful arrest, the false imprisonment, the excessive force of tackling a journalist to the ground who posed no threat, aggravated and exemplary damages for the intimidation, including that creepy visit to my house with my children late at night. But this is not only about me. This is about taking a stand against tyranny and getting our state back. The government have gone unchallenged until now in eroding our civil liberties. My case is just the perfect one to spearhead this fight because it's so clear-cut. They arrested a journalist. And the full 9-page, well-written and well-argued lawsuit that has been stamped by the Supreme Court and served on Victoria Police is now available at standwithavi.com, and I encourage you to read the full document. You don't have to like me, my reporting. You can even oppose my entire worldview. But you must recognise the importance of not allowing the state to dictate what journalism is okay.
Put him under arrest. But this guy here is going to be placed under arrest right now.
So if you're able and you're willing to pitch in what will inevitably be a very expensive battle, please go to standwithavi.com now. Every cent helps, and make sure to also share this campaign because together, this very little David can and will beat the big Goliath. We have the truth, evidence, and the will to fight this all the way to the top for all of our sake. I just need some of your financial support because we know they're going to throw everything back at me. We're a small independent news outlet. We don't get $1 billion a year from the government like the ABC does. We're 100% viewer supported. So we have to ask because we don't just get to take it from your taxes without your permission. I'm going up against Dan Andrews and the state of Victoria. They have unlimited funds and literally hundreds of lawyers. So I need you at standwithavi.com now. Donate and share. And then watch this space.
You know, Sheila, Avi made so many profound points there, but I think the most important one, and it might even have got lost in the shuffle, when he said, maybe you don't like me or my reporting and you oppose my worldviews. And that's the thing. It's not about whether you like Avi or Ezra or Rebel News folks. It's about whether you like freedom, whether you like freedom of the press, freedom of speech, freedom of expression. And I can tell you, Sheila, and I think you would feel the same way. If I could think of the most ultra-leftist media organization in Toronto, for example, maybe the Toronto Star, maybe Now Magazine. I have no time for either of them. But if they or their reporters were treated this way, I would speak up for them. I would say this is an outrage. But I can tell you whether it's Avi in Australia, whether it's what happened to me in Brampton to a lesser degree, it was the same sort of deal, unlawful arrest and false imprisonment, but I was spared the brutality of the takedown like Avi had.
Yep.
You would think there'd be a media snowball saying hands off. You can't be a little bit pregnant. You can't be, I'm a little bit for free speech as long as it's this kind of worldview. This is the big issue here, and I think it's absolutely appalling, Sheila, that the other members of the media aren't making a snowball about it. I'm not sure what press coverage Avi has received in Australia. With my case, it was a local Mississauga radio station and our good friend Joe Warmington in The Sun.
Yeah. And
everyone else, radio silent. They don't even want to know about it.
I can give you a good example of this, and it happened in Alberta. Duncan Kinney from Progress Alberta, far left-wing NDP front group, union front group, masquerading as journalists, I guess. Whatever, I don't care. I don't care if the unions fund you to be journalists. I don't care. I'm not in the business of telling people who are or aren't journalists. But he was kept out of the government budget lockup here in Alberta. And you know what we did? We released our lawyers who were working for us and to help him, and we turned over some of our documents to help him. And we did it basically at no cost. We said, yeah, we have these documents that will help with your arguments. Here, take them. We let our lawyers do that.
Even though that was originally a cost for us, right?
It was a cost for us, yeah. Because we care about press freedom. Yeah. Even for our political enemies and people who would, write terrible things about how awful we are and this and that. And we did that to help him. You know what he did that very same day that he was in the budget lockup? Go on Twitter and complain that I was in there. Yeah. He went on Twitter and complained that I was allowed into the budget lockup. And the only reason he was in the budget lockup is because we let our lawyers work on his behalf. I mean,
you know what, Sheila?
Those are the kind of people we're dealing with. And you know what? We'd probably do it again because we care about press freedom more than we don't like that guy.
That was exactly my point. I'm kind of glad he did such an egregious and ungrateful act by doing that, by complaining about you, because it just shows this wasn't a friend that we went to bat for. This wasn't someone who was an enemy who he hoped to win over by going to bat for. He still remained the same sort of creep he always was, yet we still went to bat for the principle, not necessarily for him. So it just shows we really do put our money where our mouth is.
Yep, exactly. Let's keep going. We've got a super chat from Goonies 2, gives us $5. 792 confirmed USA cases of Ms. C and 16 deaths in weeks and growing. Did you learn about Ms. C yet? I know about Ms. C. You've asked me this question before. Multi-system inflammatory syndrome. It manifests in children. However, it's a statistical rounding error of children, especially 792 confirmed cases in all of the United States. Children are a statistical rounding error of the people who get coronavirus. The kids who get coronavirus don't get sick. The ones who do get sick, again, don't get as sick as everybody else. A tiny fraction of those kids get Ms. C, and they get better with treatment overwhelmingly. I'll pull it up right now. 6.65 million cases, positive tests in the United States of the coronavirus. 197,000 deaths attributed to coronavirus. Take that however you will. 792 confirmed cases of Ms. C is like less than a statistical rounding error. It's not a concern, and I'm not going to get scared of that. You ask me if I'm just playing Canadians that it's all fake. No, it's definitely not all fake. I just don't play into the fear porn when you look at the bulk numbers versus the kids that are getting Ms. C. CCP Muppets or lazy. I would suggest that our reporters, because they are so critical of the CCP, cannot go to Hong Kong. They will never be able to go to Hong Kong again.
Correct.
I'm the reporter who broke the news that Justin Trudeau was giving $900,000 to the Wuhan Virology Institute. I did that because I'm highly critical of the CCP. I'm the one who goes to the Uyghur protests with the CCP spies, and I stand there with my face exposed because I'm not scared of those Chinese bullies. So am I a CCP Muppet? No. Am I lazy? I dare you to find reporters who work harder than us. So thank you for your $5. I hope I answered your question. Goonies too.
Sheila's got that look in her eyes.
Okay. Don't call me lazy, and don't call me a Chinese Muppet.
It's true. Everything is the exact opposite of what that person's saying. And I can only imagine there's some vested personal interest this person has in this, but
sure.
Like you said, it's going by the numbers. I mean, it is a statistical rounding number, and what are we supposed to do? Devote hours and hours of airtime to every single disease or that will result in a hardship or death? I mean, you got to go where the major ones are, right, Sheila?
Right. I mean, this is an incidental, tiny, tiny, tiny disease that results in children who are already such at low risk.
Yeah.
Yes, it's tragic for the families who have to deal with this. But are we going to fear porn this? I just refuse to.
Yeah.
Georgie gives us $5. Hey, David, I know you do not like sports anymore. Having said that, who was your favorite Leaf and or hockey player?
You know what? I'm going to go back to the 70s Leafs, and it was a goaltender called Mike Palmateer, and I fashioned my style after him. The only difference is he was a professional getting probably hundreds of thousands of dollars back then, and I was a beer leaguer, kind of like Patrick Brown, but he thinks he's in the NHL. And as producer Justin just said, letting in 10 a night. But Mike Palmateer was such a flamboyant, excellent goaltender, which had a real unorthodox style. So, and there were glimmers of hope in the 70s with those Leafs teams. There were some good Leaf teams. In the 100-year history of the Leafs, the lost decade, the worst decade was the 80s. It was just so miserable. But that would be my choice, Sheila. How about yourself?
David, you just talked about the Leafs lovingly from a time before I was even born.
Well, at least I didn't say Johnny Bauer, for goodness sake.
Jeez. Proud Boys Calgary gives us $2. Which Undertaker is the best? New Deadman, pre-2009. Pre-2009 for sure.
Yeah.
When he first came, that was better. I like that better than like rock and roll biker kind of gothy Undertaker. Way better.
And also his manager at the time, Sheila, Paul Bearer, one of the greatest names.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that guy.
What about my Undertaker?
Anyway, Troy S. gives us $5. Slam that like button for the best tag team on YouTube. Yes!
Wow, thank you.
The greatest hour of video ever created. And thank you both for your answers. I'm glad that somebody is remotely interested in the wrestling facts rattling around in my brain.
Sheila, wouldn't that be a great idea? And all proceeds going to charity. You and I, as members of a co-ed tag team wrestling squad, and we go up against a co-ed squad with the CBC or Global or CTV or something like that. Wouldn't you love to? Who would we pair with Rosemary Barton?
Look, she would mush me. It's just like she would. It would. I'm a strong lady,
yes,
but she's got the force of momentum behind it. Patrick Bentley gives us $5. I don't see a super chat. Thank you very much. Flat Earther $6.99. Wrestling 30-minute topic on a news channel. We were responding to a super chat. One World Government documents 5-second mention. Google search IHR and the Quarantine Act of 2005. I will. But like I said, why do we even need the Quarantine Act when we have a public health officer who's doing the bidding of the World Health Organization anyway, because that's also her boss? That
super chat didn't come from Andrew Says, did it? I mean,
Cade Enmark gives us $5. My mom went into labor with me in the 80s. My dad and brother watching WWE told her to wait. That's so funny. Lisa Proust gives Lisa, I'm very sorry. Lisa Proust.
Proust, that's right. Rhymes with boost.
That's right, and roost. Gives sending a special hug to David and Sheila. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Devin Spittle gives us $5. Justice is out of reach for your average citizen. The state should be removed. Laws are not the same for everyone. Only one rule needed, non-aggression. Devin, might I suggest, and stay tuned because we have some good news coming out about it today, but justice is not always out of reach for your average citizen as long as your good friends, me and David and everybody else here at Rebel News, are willing to help. Fight the Fines is a great example of that. Normal people were getting hammered with these fines. They came to us. We found a way to fight back. We hired them a lawyer, one of the best in the biz, bencher with the Law Society of Ontario, Sam Goldstein, to help them fight back. And I think it has sent a bit of a chill across the ticket books of these Corona cops, that they are writing now these tickets less frequently, because we're making a big deal out of every ticket that comes to us that we can help fight back.
I think you're right, Sheila. And I just want to add something very important. even if it's not us going to bat for someone or creating a new website portal like fightthefines.com, folks, in every province there is small claims court, and it is a legitimate court, and you can represent yourself. In fact, judges expect you in many cases to represent yourself. In Ontario, I can tell you, it only costs $100 to file a claim. You can sue for up to $35,000. It was recently amended from 25 to 35. And it is a legitimate court, and it doesn't have to be an issue like, oh, I hired this home renovator and he did a terrible job, putting in my patio. You can take on real issues and get real justice through small claims. It is, probably the most democratized court system there is. Granted, the awards are capped at $35,000, but that's always an option. And the first time I experienced small claims court, it was back in the 90s, Sheila. I had to take the Toronto Blue Jays to court over $46 for a game that was canceled because of the strike, the player strike. And they would only refund my money with other tickets. I wanted the cash value. I had every right to get the cash. I had to end up taking the Toronto Blue Jays with their high-priced Bay Street law firm to small claims court. I won't get into all the details, but at the end of the day, with costs, interest, and penalties, the Jays had to cut me a check for over $500, which is nothing to them. I know that. But imagine that. They were drawing a line in the sand over $46. But I got my day in court, and boy, did I win. And also, the PR black eye for the Blue Jays, because I wrote about this in the Financial Post, in a defunct U.S. sports magazine called Inside Sports. That was way, way more than just a crummy $500 Canadian. But anyways, that is an option for our viewers, Sheila.
Okay, let's keep going. Flat Earther, $6.99. They will hang their heads in shame when they finally realize the heroes they ridiculed and the evil they supported. It will be too late then. Viking Insane gives us $5, says, I'm pessimistic. Canada will go commie red. There are too many scared and ignorant Canadians. Several decades of public education produced this result. Yeah, that's why I refuse to live in fear. I'll look at the stats. I'll look at the facts and adjust my behavior accordingly. Lisa A gives us $6.99. Oh, snap, SGR. Your hard work and tenacity. Keep up the awesome work. Thank you very much, Lisa. Kendra Shea gives us $50. Wow, Kendra, thank you so much. Pierre Polyev is my superhero. Wouldn't it be great if he were actually the leader?
Oh,
I feel like he would ignite the party, energize young people. But he's just not, and that makes me sad.
And Sheila, did you see the most recent poll published yesterday? It shows if an election were held, the Justin Trudeau Liberals have a 40% bump, whereas the O'Toole Conservatives 30%. I'm staggered, but yeah, you're right. Anyways, enough said about that.
Yeah. How is it that the Conservatives are doing worse with a leader now? Veterans Voice, Chris Semchuk is a $6.99. Stampede Wrestling at Old Forum in Edmonton. Yes, sir. Vince McMahon ruined Canadian wrestling, and I guess this should say exploited the hearts. Yeah, probably to some extent. Beer on me, David and Sheila. Thank you very much. Cindy McSeven gives us $10, says she's our number one fan. Goonies 2 gives us $5. So from that, you're lazy. Fine. I'm not going to argue with you. You'll eat those words once Miss C pops. I suppose time will tell, and suppose you'll check back with me in a month. They need to test the blood of Miss C in the ASF test. Sheila, you're wrong. Again, time will tell if I'm right or wrong. Like I just said, I look at the numbers, I look at the facts, I look at the statistics, and if you think Miss C is a problem for your children, then you're definitely free to keep your children home. But for now, my children and I will live as free as possible, and we won't continue to live in fear, and we won't accept the fear being barfed into our homes every day on the TV. Flat Earther, $2.79. Rocco Galati exposed the New World Order, Agenda 21. Ezra interviewed Rocco Galati on his show, and it was a very lively show. Yeah. He's such a character.
That's the word.
Caricature. And we're at 10 minutes left in the show, David. So, and we're finally all caught up on the super chats.
Well, you hinted about the J.K. Rowling video, and I think we have two, Mr. Producer, from Drea and Sheila. So,
Drea's is kind of fun. Let's go to Drea's, maybe.
Are you sure? Okay, then. So, Mr. Producer, maybe we want to cue that up. And all right, here we go, folks.
One of the more visible examples of free speech being curtailed, but not the worst. Like this, I mean, it's just a billboard, right? Honestly, it's just a billboard, but it's kind of an example of ridiculous things that are happening around free speech and around parents' rights, around women's rights, around children's rights. And those are very like quiet fights that aren't really being reported on, right? So I think that the value of something like this, going up, getting paint all over it, being taken down instantly, it's big and it's flashy and it's newsy and it gets people talking, and I think that's the real value of it.
And so what do you think about some of the stances J.K. Rowling has been taking lately?
She sucks. Like, it's terrible. As far as I know, she just says pretty despicable things about trans rights. She doesn't believe in trans rights. She seems like a terrible person.
I think J.K. Rowling is an honorary white male because of that, a cis white male, and should probably donate her breasts to a trans man who's or trans woman who's transitioning.
You know who J.K. Rowling is, right? She's the British author and screenwriter who's brought us creative masterpieces like Harry Potter. Oh, and she's also the founder of Loomis, a charity for helping families get the resources they need, one so basic as parents' ability to raise their own children rather than have an orphanage do so. So it should be no surprise then that people love J.K. Rowling, right? Well, hold that thought, because J.K. Rowling has also been speaking out on behalf of women and children in a way that is not deemed socially acceptable by the far left nor their mainstream media. Now, this has earned J.K. Rowling the trigger label of TERF. I'm going to save you the Google search. That means trans exclusionary radical feminist. It also has earned signs that profess their love to Rowling to be labeled as symbols of hate by some. Drea Humphrey here with Rebel News, and this past weekend, a huge I Heart J.K. Rowling billboard sign was put up near the busy intersection on Hastings and Glen Drive in Vancouver. I emphasize was, because as fast as a social justice warrior can yell, "That's transphobic," the sign was painted over and replaced. Chris Elston and Amy Hem, both from the Greater Vancouver area, partnered to have the sign put up on Friday, September 10th. Both of the Rowling lovers and around 10 other people, including myself, were present the next day when the sign was prematurely assigned to be replaced. Now, of course, you will be able to find some who oppose Rowling respectfully, raising concerns about some transgender people, but a significant amount of far-left opposers don't want a discussion at all. They want Rowling's voice on the topic to be shut down. For example, Vancouver City Councillor Sarah Kirby-Young, who initially tweeted to Pattison Outdoor, the owners of the billboard, to condemn the sign. She then later applauded her cancel allies when the sign was being covered up. Now, Sarah's powerful influence shouldn't be of any surprise to Vancouverites. After all, she is the same woman who helped defund one of Vancouver's longest-standing women's rape shelters, all because that shelter believes that meeting the city council's demands to admit biological males alongside female rape victims would, quote, be incomprehensible, and it would contradict the essence and purpose of their work. Now, in a statement about why Chris felt the I Heart J.K. Rowling sign should go up, Chris wrote, "The idea for this billboard sprung to mind when a similar poster that Posey Parker had installed at the Edinburgh train station was removed. J.K. Rowling is the most beloved children's author in the world and has spoken eloquently about various concerns related to safeguarding women and children. I strongly encourage anyone trying to understand this debate to seek out her tweets on the subject. It's disappointing to see that Pattison Outdoor has decided a sign that says "I heart J.K. Rowling" is a violation of their guidelines. I have asked which guideline it is in violation of, but no answer could be given. Now, I too reached out to Pattison Outdoor to get a better understanding on why the sign was removed, as well as what guidelines were violated when it was put up. And for now, I've received no response. But let's take a look at what Amy Ham and some of those who gathered around the billboard on Saturday had to say about the sign.
You do some freelance work, nurse by day, and this kind of stuff by weekend, I guess. So why is it important that you're here today?
We just wanted to kind of see what kind of vandalism happened to our sign overnight in terms of getting the billboard. I did this with my friend Chris, and we wanted to show support for J.K. Rowling, who's recently stood up for women's sex-based rights.
Right, and so she's been getting a lot of backlash for that, but also a lot of support. What do you have to say about people who automatically think the things that she's saying means they're transphobic?
I think it's pretty clear if you listen to her words or read her essay that she's absolutely not transphobic, and that there is nothing transphobic about standing up for the rights of women and girls and children.
Now, you did this with Chris, a father of two, and he is saying that he thinks this might come down. Do you think that's a possibility?
Yeah, we've heard that that apparently it's coming down today because of a single complaint.
A single.
Oh, well, so many things to discuss on that, Sheila. The three takeaways I have there, when Drea was rightfully asking, what guideline does a billboard in which someone says, "I love somebody else," what does it break? I guess the guideline is, well, it's unspeakable because it's embarrassing, which is, well, we're not a company with a spine, and we always bend the knee to the cancel culture mob. That's the guideline that we acquiesce to. Secondly, that seemingly mentally disturbed man with that pink hat and doing
He's a comedian. He's like I think, I mean, maybe not. I mean, these people are truly beyond parody, so it's hard to tell. But I think he was there to like sort of mock the whole thing.
Ah, okay then.
I think. I'm not sure, but it said like SJW comedian on the name key. So, but again, like I've seen these people in action. Yeah. There's no discernible difference between that guy mocking them and what they are in real life. Like they're beyond parody.
I stand corrected, because I mean, the statement that got me, donate our breast to a man transitioning. Well, right off the bat, in the same neighborhood, we have Jonathan Yaniv. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot. I saw him 2 months ago. He does have breasts, but it's flab. The pandemic's been very harsh to Jonathan Yaniv. But the third thing, always looking as I try, Sheila, to the silver lining in any kind of odious story. It's this, and we mentioned earlier in the show, the Barbara Streisand effect. All these cancel culture mobsters, all these spineless, gutless billboard companies that bend the knee, what it does is it puts this into the news cycle, whereas otherwise it would just be a billboard, a poster. A lot of people wouldn't even notice it. Now it gets news coverage. And now, you know what? As Drea mentioned, maybe people are going on to J.K. Rowling's Twitter feed and finding out what she has to say and finding out, hey, wait a minute, this isn't radical, this isn't hateful, this isn't outrageous, this is just common sense. So in that way, they've kind of done, our side a favor.
Well, and it's troubling for me personally because I end up agreeing with the radical feminists. And I'm like, how did I get here? Where I say, yeah, you know what? There are women's only spaces that don't need men in them. And probably a rape shelter is a good place to start. The bathroom is a good place to start. And so, when the radical left has gone so far left that someone like me, who thinks that feminism is just anti-male sexism on a good day, and it's, populated by miserable women, broken women who take out their failings on the men around them. When I find myself agreeing with the radical feminists, Houston, we have a problem. You've pushed people just too far. And, you talk about Jonathan Yaniv. I think Amy Ham was on the receiving end of some of Jonathan Yaniv's ire, too. If I'm remembering correctly, she was accused of sexually assaulting him in a washroom or taking his photo in a washroom because, again, Jonathan Yaniv was in a female-only space, i.e. the courthouse washroom. And so he noticed her there and accused her of a crime. I mean, you just can't go around accusing people of a crime, but he did. She's been on the other side of this.
Yeah. How did we ever get to this point? Like you said, there should be female-only spaces. You quite rightly mentioned shelters. I would say prisons, for example.
Yeah.
Sports, with the exception of auto racing and equestrian. We have male and female divisions for all sports for good reasons. Yeah. The inherent biological differences between men and women. Yes, men and women are equal, but we're different. And this is going to actually, because you see a trend going on, destroy female athletics at the elite level. And if you speak out against it, again, the mob comes, like Martina Navratilova spoke out about that. She herself is lesbian, and within 48 hours, she was taking back those comments. Well, listen, Martina, if in your heyday, if you were going up against Borg and Connors and McEnroe, you wouldn't have won any championships at Wimbledon or the U.S. Open. So you were quite right. So why did you have to acquiesce to the lunatic fringe?
My daughter plays rugby. She's very good at it. She travels to play for rugby. She's only 14. The day a boy pretending to be a girl laces up their cleats on the other side of the ruck from her is the day she never plays again. Yep. I'm just not, I can't put her in that sort of danger. You look at elite female runners, they can be and will be beat by elite male high school athletes. That's just biology. It's not that women aren't good at what they're doing, but that's just biology. We're just not built like you guys. We can't carry muscle. We don't have the bone structure, and that's fine. And that's why there are different places for men and women. I mean, it's just science denial, and it's crazy. It's crazy, and it's harmful to girls.
And it's so horrible, Sheila, because I remember back in the day when Ezra Levant was the publisher of the Western Standard, I had a little item in his magazine, and it was about what happened again in BC. It was a elite women's mountain bike race. And a guy who fancied himself to be a gal, guess what? He came in first by a landslide. So they had the medal presentation on 3 podiums, gold, silver, bronze. And the female cyclist who won silver, her boyfriend came out of the crowd, put an oversized t-shirt on her. It said 100% female. And for that, Sheila, I believe she received a 3-month suspension from cycling because it was hurtful to the feelings of Herman Munster in a miniskirt standing next to her with the gold medal. This is insane. Okay,
yes.
Some super chats, my friend.
Yes, I could hear Justin telling you to get us back on track. Veteran's Voice, Chris Semchuk is a $6.99. Robin Williams' new documentary, Robin's Wish. Great movie. Spoiler alert, his wish. I want to help people be less afraid. Fight on, rebels. What a great message. Pictus Lignum gives us $5. That comedian was Mark Hughes. You have to look up his interview with Jonathan Yaniv. It's one of the funniest things on the internet. I definitely will. I can't wait,
actually. And I stand corrected. He totally fooled me.
And just going back to something I mentioned earlier from Mike Mayer, People versus Predators, their march Saturday, September 19th in Spruce Grove. They meet at the Christian Fellowship Church at 11 a.m. in Spruce Grove. And then looks like they have a full day of activities. So in case anybody's interested. And that is it. It's 4 minutes past the hour.
Oh, holy mackerel. Well, without further ado, on behalf of Justin, Sheila Gunn-Reid, myself, David Menzies, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you especially to those making the super chats. That's how we keep the lights on here. And until next Tuesday, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.